As Peter said, I have a little bit of a background in sales, so I'm sorry if I refer to some sales terminology, but I will try not to. But we will also talk about a little bit about how that also fundraising does seep over into the business and professional world, not just in sales. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, first of all, most importantly, why fundraising is so important for you guys at the chapter level. Also teaching you how to solicit sponsorship. Also sharing with you how to cultivate donor relationships, which is my favorite, and also how to get leads per se for donors so that you can cultivate relationships with them. And then also what drives our supporters to give. This is something that I spent the past 3 months doing, is interviewing our current donors and kind of really diving into their brains and seeing why they give, when they give, and really what drives them to do so. And then I will touch base on how the things that you learn from fundraising can also seep over and help you in the secular world and in your professional lives. And then, like Peter said, we'll wrap it up with questions at the end that you might have for it. Perfect. So first off, why is fundraising so important? Well, obviously having money in the bank means more freedom for you to do creative things with it. This can run true for you guys for events, offering you different options for different venues, having more polished events, also providing materials for your members or guests, such as books, journals, or whatever you see fit for particularly maybe a theme. Themed events are great, but they do require, again, decorations and being creative. And with that, that takes money. Also better marketing and communication tools so that you can reach literally more souls for Christ and reach more young people to, you know, really bring them into YCP and the events, and then also into the membership. Fundraising will also allow you to have less focus and stress on worrying about money for, let's say, the next event. And this will allow you to then tend to the mission of YCP and also spend your time planning, socializing, building relationships with each other, and most importantly, handling your roles, responsibilities versus, again, worrying where you're going to get the next dollar to host the next event or to do the next marketing tool. More money also means more ways to attract people. I know, especially with young professionals, that they're very budget conscious, obviously, as they're not seasoned yet. So cheaper costs for members and guests mean more turnout for you, having discounts or being able to cover food and drinks at events. This can really end up luring more people into YCP, into your chapter events. And then also building connections and networks within your local communities and your local Catholic communities. This really helps dealing with donors and making connections and sharing with them the mission and seeing how they can support it really gives them a sense of being invested in our mission. And this will help grow chapter awareness and then also help you in your funding. And most importantly, it really gives you the opportunity to give someone the gift of giving. You're offering them grace every time you give them an opportunity to give. And it's very important to remember that, because I think we can lose sight of that. When you ask others for help, you're really allowing them the opportunity to grow in grace and virtue. It even says so in the Bible, Acts 20:35. It is more blessed to give than to receive. So remember that when you are dealing with fundraising events or making that ask, because it's important to know that people want to give. They just need an avenue to give, and that is you, and you're representing a very important mission. It also helps you grow as a team. Fundraising is not just one person's job. It is not just the director of outreach's role. In order to have successful fundraising events and to bring in a successful amount of money, you will need the cooperation of the whole team. And this is not just with the leadership team, it's also with board members, especially board members. And again, some people are good at certain things, so not everyone might be comfortable with doing the ask, but networking, sharing contacts and connections that each person can contribute to the table, offering introductions, prospecting, joining in on meetings even, especially with board members, especially if they're at the peer level of a donor you're going to visit. This is a great opportunity if they're willing to serve as that peer and deal with sharing with another peer why they are so involved in YCP, and that can really resonate with them. So yeah, some good tips on why you should be fundraising. And then also, tips to solicit event sponsors, because this is very important, especially with the events. Really, if you check in your parish bulletins, obviously on the last page, they will have local business owners, Catholic business owners who really are looking for young talent, a lot of them. And don't just pursue Catholic organizations here, don't limit it to that. A faith-based Christian young adult is more likely to be a great employee. And I say that because we actually had a big company reach out to us recently, who said that they realized that faith-based Christian young adults have literally proven to be better employees for them, and they're constantly hiring young adults. So they really wanted to partner and collaborate with us and sponsor events so they could reach that market. So again, Catholic organizations, obviously we're a Catholic organization, so Catholic businesses would probably ring true to what we're doing, but also don't limit it to that. There's also other organizations that respect and acknowledge that they can be helping and can offer significant funds or significant sponsorship opportunities, whether that be food, venues, drinks. A great example of this actually is there's a Baptist band that sponsored a parking lot for Texas A&M, St. Mary's Catholic Campus Ministry, and somebody had to ask the Baptist band to do so. So don't be scared to ask anybody, really, if you think that they would be interested in helping the mission for you guys at the chapter level. Another great example of this is we actually have Benny Keith, which is a liquor distributor here in Texas. They have agreed to literally sponsor all of the alcoholic beverages for all 5 chapters in Texas, which is a huge amount of money that all the chapters are saving by doing so. But for them, it was a marketing opportunity, which is very important when you're dealing with some of these companies to pitch that, because they had done their own research and seen that people in their 20s and 30s are really using their beverages. And so being able to market it at our events was a win for them as well. So it's a mutual relationship there and mutual benefits. Also allowing the potential sponsors to speak at an event. That initial example I gave you about a big organization here in Texas that really wanted young faith-filled professionals, one of the executives there did actually end up being Catholic and asked to speak at an event, and then they offered to host the event as well to lure in young professionals so that they could kind of see the offices. And again, it was a marketing opportunity for them, but also for us, it's going to provide a nice venue, and we have a speaker who's done very well and is Catholic. Also, make sure though you are approaching businesses and products and having a good goal, and really vetting them out to make sure that they fit our mission, and then also that we can provide a good marketing opportunity for them, just like the Benny Keith. And also don't not utilize your board members again in requesting sponsorship leads, because even their businesses, they might have connections or know of good ones if you need leads for it. And then always pitch a specific event or amount when you are talking about sponsoring with them. A great example of this is we have a sample of benefits for various levels that you can provide each sponsor with in the training folder. And if you have questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Peter after this presentation. We can assist you with that. All right, on to the next, cultivating donor relationships, my favorite. Once again, the key thing to be able to come up with potential donors to be able to cultivate relationships with is utilizing your board's network. Have them introduce you personally, or like I mentioned earlier, join you in on meetings. If they're as passionate as they should be about YCP and our mission, then they should be ecstatic, and we'll be ecstatic to share it with others. It's really that peer-to-peer communication and vouching for our mission that's important in that interaction. Also, invite leads, sorry, again, my sales terminology, leads or prospective donors to speak at executive speaker series events or panel discussions. The key is to get them involved so that they feel like they're a part of the mission and they're invested, so that they can see it first-handedly and experience and witness the fruits of our mission. I mean, nothing's more impactful than that. So that's a great opportunity for us, and something that YCP offers because of that event that we really should grasp and take an opportunity of. But the key with that is the follow-up afterwards. You really, really want to do a personalized thank you afterwards. That's key. And be clever, and maybe not just a simple handwritten thank you note. An idea actually a donor gave me was get a religious book or article, and we have it done here if you have a significant donor that you would really, or a significant prospect that you'd really like to cultivate a relationship with. We have religious books, so you can grab one and sign a thank you letter inside the cover because that's again, it ties to our mission, it's personable, and it's kind of clever, so it's memorable. Also, another great idea is set up a follow-up meeting after their speaking event, and do that before they speak or at the speaking event, not after, so that they are committed to it and so that you guarantee you follow up with them afterwards to get feedback. And that's how you want to pitch it to them, is, you know, to get feedback on the event and what they thought. And then this way you can continue that relationship with them, and then also ask them how they'd like to get more involved, whether that be financially with in-kind donations, sponsorships, maybe becoming a board member if that's needed, a mentor, or whatever that they can help out with. Another important thing is to be strategic when you are cultivating these relationships. And by that, I mean, listen. Listen to everything they say. Let them talk. It's funny because everyone thinks, coming from the sales world, that when you think of a salesperson, you think of somebody who's very gregarious and talks a lot. Well, ironically, the best salespeople are those that actually talk the least and listen to their customers. And the same goes here. You really want to listen, and for two reasons, because you want to be genuine, but you also want to find opportunities from them. They'll share with you, if you get them talking about stuff that's important to them. And more than likely, you'll find something that really ties into what we do, and you can tie them to that and get them more involved there. And they'll be willing and wanting to support it more. So yes, be strategic and make sure you listen and ask them a lot of questions. And they love to share their knowledge and life experiences with you, and it benefits you as well. You're developing a connection that's valuable. And then also a great example in order how to kind of lure in multiple donors or potential donors at once, and then develop relationships with, and also have them experience our mission first-handedly, is what I like to call, well, actually, I have to give a shout out to our Chicago chapter, because they actually created this idea. And it was actually one of the first events I went to when I came on board, and I thought it was genius. They had an open house event, is what they called it. And it's where they invited all their prospects or potential donors, and then they utilized their boards and getting a list together, their connections, and they had all current and potential donors come, and had even their donors invite prospective donors. And what they did is that they had a peer of the donors that's very highly regarded in the Chicago community, and actually nationally in the national Catholic community, and has had achieved significant business respect. And so having him coming and speak actually lured more people to come to the event, and not just from young Catholic professionals who did want to come because they all wanted to work for the company, but also they had all of this executive's peers come because they wanted to come support either their friend or someone that they thought highly of and was really actually interested for themselves in learning to speak. So it ended up being a beautiful event. It was at a very professionally nice venue, and the turnout was, I think, over 250, and it was just nice. And they had a sponsor, actually, they found someone to sponsor the event and a happy hour afterwards, which was wonderful, because now not only did all of these new people who are now being introduced to YCP, new as in young professionals, and then seasoned professionals who could be potential donors or sponsors, they're seeing what we do first-handedly, and then also now getting to mingle with all the young professionals, these seasoned professionals and young professionals, at a happy hour, literally in the room right next to it. So it was a perfect opportunity for both parties. And then they had mass right before the event, which I loved. And then they also did confession during the event. So these seasoned professionals are getting to witness what we're doing for young professionals and bringing them back to the faith in offering sacraments. And so that was just so moving. And so having an event like that would be great. And then obviously the key is to make sure you make an ask towards the end of the event. Some tips for that too: have a few people at the doorway when people are leaving towards the end of the event, so that they can collect donation cards, because I mean, they're going to be so moved at that point after being in that experience that you want to get them in that moment. And then another opportunity for a fundraising event where you can really cultivate relationships would be a bit of a more intimate setting. And this is where you can have a board member or a donor's home or venue. You just get someone to agree to host basically a fundraising event. And again, most likely this could be at the home. Maybe if someone has a nice office that they can, a nice office venue that they could do, but you want it to be a little bit intimate so that people can mingle. The host usually provides appetizers and drinks, usually wine. The leadership team and the board members all attend. And again, you basically want to do a pitch. And what I highly recommend when you do a pitch and speak and explain what's going on in the local community, in your local chapter, and what you wish to achieve with the funds raised from the evening, is have a testimony or a witness speak. So whether that be a member, it could be a leadership member, a board even, saying why they are so involved, from, again, the peer-to-peer, with the YCP, with the local chapter there in your cities. And this really resonates because there's nothing more moving than someone sharing their true story. And so doing that, I actually just came back from assisting New Orleans with this type of an event. It was wonderful. We had, I came out there and I did I gave it kind of a national exposure, talked a little bit about what we're doing rolling out, and then also it was specifically for the local chapter, so the funds were raised for them, and did the ask for them. But then we also had 2 leadership team members give the testimony about how YCP had affected their lives and how they had met each other and now they're roommates and best friends, and how they knew of members who had gotten significant jobs because of YCP in New Orleans. So it was just a great moving event. And this is just a great idea too, because it's an intimate setting, so that you can really get to know these donors and talk to them and build relationships and network. So yeah, those are just a few ideas of how you can cultivate relationships.
And just to jump in here, if you guys do have any questions, I know Megan's asked a couple questions. Megan will definitely get to those. Please type those in the comments or write them down so you don't forget them. We will get to those at the end. Be happy to answer all your questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Okay, so what does it look like inside of the brain of a potential donor? So basically, like I said earlier, I spent my first 3 months interviewing donors, and I literally told them to be straight up and real with me and tell me what makes them give, what they like about organizations they give to, what they don't like, what they wish their ideal organization would do for them. And literally most of our largest donors have said at the national level that donors give to people, not organizations, verbatim. So basically what that means is that you, in dealing with the donor, are the best example of our mission. So be a witness for the organization. Donors are impressed with you, then they will think highly of YCP. So share your story, share others' stories, bring others to share their stories or testify them at events. For the example I gave in New Orleans. Another key thing that they all mention is that after they donate, they rarely are shown where their money went to and how it specifically helped the organization. And what's interesting is I'm actually working on a project right now for us at the national level that we hopefully will roll out to you in the next 6 months. And it's literally a donor appreciation tool. And it's because of all the research that I've done and even statistics and interviewing donors and realizing that this is a serious, I'll call it room for opportunity and how we approach donors. And so basically that means better communication with them and showing them how their money affected you affected your chapter and your local chapter. And that's just keeping them up to date with the events and things that you're doing. But there's an actual study out there this year from US Trust and also the Indiana University of Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. And basically it's saying that wealthy donors are unsure of the impact of their gifts, and that they don't believe that, they do believe though, that giving is the best way and most effective way to create impact. So that again goes back to the whole thing about asking people for help or for an opportunity to support is also giving them a gift, because in their minds, they want a life of significance. They want to be able to create an impact and give back, and that's what you're doing. So literally the statistics says that 54% of wealthy donors do not know if they believe their giving is having the impact that they intended. And that's a huge gap and a huge opportunity. So just communicating with your donor puts you one step higher in their mind and makes you stick out that much more for when they're thinking about where they're going to give their funds, even at the end of the year or whenever those, key donation times happen. You're going to be at the front of their mind just because you just kept in touch. And that can be as simple as sending an email every so often, or finding out that it's their birthday or anniversary, and just reaching out to them. But then also letting them know, hey, guess what we did this past weekend? We had a turnout of, let's say, 200 people. That's great information. And if you just send that out to your top 5 or 10 prospects, it keeps them in the loop and makes them realize, hey, you know what? My money's being put to good use, and look at the difference that I'm creating with it. And that goes back to the donors wanting to feel appreciated and significant. I actually verbatim had donors tell me that they just wanted, and they give because they just want to feel like they're living a life of significance. So don't be afraid when you ask, because you are giving them that opportunity to do so. And also be genuine, not scared. They're helping a good cause through you, so remember that. And also, the number one drive too is, the number one drive that really gives donors to give is their why. And that's where the listening comes into play, because you need to listen and hear them talk. They'll talk about their faith, they can talk about work, but you'll really listen, and there will be an opportunity for you to be like, aha, that's what hits home for you. For me, the common denominator, which was really sad, but was that a lot of donors and potential donors, they have children that have fallen away from the faith. And so we're talking about some children of very devout and good Catholic people, but they contribute to YCP because of how badly they want to reincorporate their children back into the faith, and they see what YCP is something that does that. So with that in mind, a tip for you is, if you do choose to host an event like the open house that I mentioned, inviting their children, if they are, in their 20s and 30s, to that event with them, with their parents, the potential donors, will really be extremely impactful, because they'll get to see their children mingling, going to the sacraments, and doing all those things that are so dear and important to them, following their faith, and witnessing that. I mean, and that's a pretty much done deal right there. So, I mean, but this happened, and that actually happened in Chicago. There were people there who came with their children, and that was just genius, because there's nothing that proves it more or hits home more and could really help make someone want to support a mission such as ours. All right, next slide. All right. And finally, so how does all of this outside of YCP translate to you in the secular world or in your professions? Well, all these skills on this page are what you need and what you will gain by fundraising. And all of these can help you in your career life, regardless of what profession you're in. In order to be successful professionally, you must ask people for help. And that's literally what you're doing when you're fundraising. Fundraising will help you get comfortable and build confidence. Difficult things get easier the more you do them. This reminds me of my first sales job in cold calling, the scariest thing I think I've ever done. And then when you do face-to-face cold calling and just going up to random buildings and knocking on random doors and getting assistants slamming doors in you, it's very scary. But let me tell you, after the third slam door, it was like nothing. But that's because if you get over that initial hump, you realize what you're doing. And to me, it was, I was bringing someone something that a lot of people needed. That was a phone system. Here, you're giving people an opportunity to give to a wonderful cause, something that is so necessary in the world. And being of the age of our mission, no one knows that more than you. So building confidence, doing it more, but having that confidence to be able to ask people for help, even if it's in this setting and fundraising, also will transition, because you'll be more fearless when you need things and when you tackle things in the business world. Always remember, you don't have to know everything, but you can always be reliable and gain trust from people by getting back to them. That was something I also struggled with even in the sales world, is that you think that when you go out and you're going to ask someone for something, that you need to have it all figured out. And that's really a confidence thing, but you want to, but that's not the case. I mean, as long as you know your why and why you're part of YCP and you share that, if they ask you any question you don't know, you can always get back to them. And that just makes you look like you're a good communicator, and B, you're trustworthy because you'll follow up with them. So remember that when you are going out there and when you're, hesitating or waiting to make that ask that you need and want so bad. Also, networking is the key to success in any industry and, in my opinion, life, because who you know is just as important as what you know. So your contact, your connections, and your network from YCP donors and from fundraising can be fruitful for you and others in your personal lives and your career. I mean, we have so many examples where leaders met with potential speakers or donors or of the sort, and were able to find friends or themselves jobs just from that connection. But also, one example that I love is actually from our founder, Jen. She shared this with me the other day, and basically one of the largest CEOs, I would say most successful, not larger, excuse me, most successful CEOs in Dallas, she had approached him and asked if he wouldn't mind hosting an intimate fundraiser with a lot of his very, very highly successful executives and other CEOs in his Catholic network. And he agreed to do it, but he had her present this big presentation in front of him 3 times and curtail and work on it with her before she could present it in front of this of all the rest of the executives in this very high end in his office board meeting room. I mean, so she's getting 3 intimate sessions with this top CEO, famous CEO in Dallas, on how to conduct a presentation to 10 other executives and a few of them CEOs. What kind of experience are you going to get that? I don't even know college in my sales classes if I would have died for it for an opportunity like that. So that's just one example though of just, you never know what door will open, but connections, you never will know unless you do it. And there will always be opportunities in making these connections with these donors because they want to help people like you. Otherwise they wouldn't even be talking to you to begin with. And finally, I'll leave you with this. In both fundraising and business, you are selling you. Remember that. So people don't give to organizations, just like our donor said, they give to people. And I know this from my sales world, people don't buy from companies, they buy from people. So fundraising really teaches you the people skills you need to do both. So practice, 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 and have fun doing it. Thank you so much. Oh, and I'm sorry, I have one more slide for you just to wrap up what we just discussed. Just remember these top 5 things. Fundraising will expand your mission and your network. Sponsorships will allow Catholic businesses and business owners to get involved in their local Catholic community through your chapter. And consistency and follow-up are key in donor relationships per the studies and statistics that I shared with you. And being a witness to our mission and showing donors the fruit of their donations motivates them to donate. Share your story with them. And fundraising skills are important in your professional life. Remember that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Any questions?
Terrific. So we do have some time here for questions. You guys can either type them in the comment box, or you should be able to unmute yourself. While you guys are thinking about that, I want to answer a couple questions from Megan here. You may be able to read along if you'd like. For an organization such as Benny Keith in Texas here, who supplies the alcohol for all of our Texas chapters, is this something that could be shared with our other teams? It's a great question, Megan. And the unfortunate part is that Benny Keith is only a regional distributor. So they can only really support the chapters where they have access to their distribution plans, which is just in Texas right now. That being said, though, when we do have other sponsors and relationships, potential donors, anything like that that we can share in other cities, that's something that we absolutely want to share with your chapter and will share. It's a large part of our role, especially as Pam is coming on board. This is going to be a lot of her efforts, is building relationships with donors and people, not just here in Texas and locally here in Dallas, but across the country, and helping make those introductions back to your chapter for those that may be able to support your teams there locally. The other thing, just a side note, but kind of another story, we're working right now to see if maybe we could provide some printing services for your chapter through a local printing company here. So that's in the early stages of conversation, but those are the types of things that we spend our time on as the staff, so that perhaps you guys could have a single place to go, sort of a portal that you could print important materials for your events and for your chapter, so that you don't necessarily have to work with someone locally, but you can take advantage of the discounts that we can help negotiate on a national scale. So those are the types of things that we keep working on overall. Next question, is there anything provided at the national level to inform sponsors and donors of news about the organization? So basically, how do we help local donors in Cleveland or San Diego or Chicago help know what's going on at the national level? So Pam, do you want to?
So we are actually working, that's part of my project for the new year. We are working on cultivating some sort of a donor communication tool. And what I'd like to do is roll it out eventually to the chapters. With that in mind, though, that also means we do want to have a general one from the national perspective, but really your local donors are going to want to know what you're doing there locally. And so that also comes to mind the relationship building between you guys and me. And when, as I visit or help with the fundraiser and build connections, there's a few, I've been to New Orleans, I've been to Chicago so far. It's just being able to get to know you guys and then also your donors and then meet with them and then have you share with me because you're comfortable, you know, okay, so I met with so-and-so and they're into technology and you know, I know you guys are rolling out this new technology platform. Can you really give me something to give to them to let them know what's going on? I mean, because that again ties to their heartstring and specifically to them, and that'll go a lot further. General communication is obviously just as important to let them know what's going on, but we'll be rolling out and working on a process specific for that.
And a couple other tools that you already have access to or will beginning in 2019. We'll be revamping our monthly communication with you as our leaders. So those will be providing key national level updates as well that'll be helpful as you're entering into some of these donor conversations. So you'll have a little bit more at your disposal on an ongoing basis of what's going on here at the national staff and the national office. The other thing is any connections, donors, people that come to your events, all of those are uploaded to the CRM that we all share called Nation Builder currently. And those people, if they're in your system, they get our national level emails. So right now, you know, we do send those periodically with national updates, really updates across the entire network is a better way to say it. That being said, we are looking to improve that and increase that kind of communication because we know how important that is. Mm-hmm. Also, things are moving so quickly here and there's so many exciting things coming down the pipeline, whether it's growth in your chapters, whether it's amazing stories of what's happening there locally, new chapters launching, new programs we're testing out, new technology we're growing in, all kinds of different things that we're working on. So we'll continue to provide more ways in which you guys can share that type of information with your donors as well. In the meantime, I just want to reiterate what Pam said. If there's something specific you're looking at, it's literally just a Slack message away and we can get you something pretty darn quickly to perhaps tailor to the needs of something you have there locally. Another example, is there an updated sponsorship level packet for chapters to use? In your outreach folder, we do have some guidelines. Sponsorship tiers. You know, if you give $500, you could offer a sponsor this set of benefits. The key is those are just guidelines because one thing that we've heard from you, our chapter leaders, is that you like to have some flexibility in what you can offer there locally. So this is an opportunity for you to kind of tailor that to what works for your city and your chapter. So you can use those guidelines in the outreach folder in Dropbox or Drive, but use them as such, as guidelines that can be tweaked. If you have specific questions, of course, Pam, myself, we're here to kind of be those experts who can share best practices if maybe you're looking to tailor those to your city and would like a little bit of help from us. And lastly, if we want to do a fundraiser, is a team member from the national team able to join us for a fundraising event?
I would love to.
That one?
I would love to. Yes. And I had my contact information on the first slide, but obviously I think you can email Peter or Slack. But I would love to. I am available to come out for fundraising events. Like I said, I just went to New Orleans for one. I just visited the one in Chicago for that open house. And then I just did one in Dallas as well. But yes, that is what I'm here for. I did do the a little bit of a speech, and then the ask, and then I do like I mentioned, having someone local to give a little bit of a testimony just for a few minutes on how YCP in the area had positively affected them. But yeah, please do reach out to me. I would be more than happy to assist.
And another note, you know, we really want to collaborate with you guys even in perhaps the planning stages of that. Because we've done many of these events now. Pam shared a few of those stories but those are just a handful. We've done many of these events now, and we've figured out a pretty good method to have these kind of intimate gatherings that can be super easy and amazingly low cost. I mean, just to put numbers to it, we'll have some intimate fundraising events where we may only spend $150 on the event, but that can net anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 worth of fundraising that comes from that. So let us help share that information with you while you're in the planning stages. And of course, pending the calendar matchups, we'd love to have Pam or another member of staff out there to support you guys. And what a great chance for us to get out there and celebrate with you guys too. And
Yes.
Get to spend some time with you, our local leaders.
Great question.
All right, let's see here. Moving on to Brian. Thanks for the questions, Brian. Since donor relationships, that's part of the Director of Outreach's responsibilities, should we communicate our efforts through them, or is this something we should all be doing separately, and to what extent?
Good point. So I like that you have that everyone is going to be taking a shot at it or have a hand in it, but it is obviously communication is key because you don't want to overlap efforts. You all want to be on the same page. I think it's a great idea, since it's the Director of Outreach, to run things by them, to collaborate together at meetings, and to keep everyone informed. That's super important, even from a team perspective, because like I said, you don't want to overlap efforts, or sometimes overlapping efforts can turn someone off too, if they're constantly being, poked at or asked or hit up per se, because you don't want, to annoy them. But that's, again, communication. So if someone has already reached out to someone, even though someone else knows them, it really helps smooth the process and allows you to be more efficient as well in your efforts.
And the other question, Brian, you had was in terms of specific forms of communication to communicate events and what's going on. So absolutely, since the Los Angeles chapter hasn't launched yet, we're going to talk about a lot of that in training. There's a ton of tools available. So we'll talk a lot more about what that communication looks like. We're actually launching a new platform in Q1 of this coming year, 2019, that will actually replace our current technology in email and membership and event planning platform. So we'll be sharing a lot more about that during our training process. We do provide those tools. We pay for those tools so you guys can have access to it at pretty much no cost. So you guys will have access to that stuff. And then Ryan said, what is an appropriate time interval to make asks? San Diego has a yearly fundraising event, but it would be great to hear your thoughts on appropriate or recommendation to ask more often than once per year.
Good question. So in both sales and in fundraising, from the books I've read, all of them honestly say which doesn't help because it's not concise, but it's a gut feeling. So with that being said, there's certain people that, for instance, I've had meetings already on the first meeting where I know I could ask them. They've given me inclinations. Again, that comes with the listening portion when you're during these meetings or communicating with them, and realizing that feeling comfortable in asking. If you're talking about specifically hosting fundraising events, when's a great time? So far, end of year seems to be what I've been hearing, and we're actually right now reaching out to people for end of year donations at the national level, and it's been fruitful. But also in the beginning of the year is key as well, because that I'm learning donors are kind of being more strategic in how they give and planning their year out. And so having them consider you in the beginning might set up a path for you in the end. And then also a lot of the donors that have given to us in this ask that we're doing right now at the end of the year gave in the beginning of the year. So there was a little bit of a gap there. And that's, again, for the fundraising events. But in terms of just reaching out to donors and meeting with them, again, it's your gut. If you sit down with someone, I had a donor literally say, I'm just looking for excuses. Just give me an excuse to give, or have an event, or give me a reason to give. So of course, at the end of that meeting, I asked for something. But then I've had donors that clearly tell me that they need to be babied a bit more. And so, he was talking about instances of where he really liked how one guy for a year brought him cookies every Christmas near his house, literally. But it was the thought that counted. And so next year, he didn't even really care about, he said, the mission. I mean, it was something that was nice, but it wasn't like hitting home. But he said, because the guy remembered him, he gave when the guy asked the following year. So it's really just listening again, and you'll get a tip during the conversations with them of, if they're using your gut and your intuition, if they're willing to give at that moment, or if it's something that you might want to ask in the second or third meeting. The other thing is also on the phone, if you are going to ask for a significant amount, you do want to be in a more, not just an email, you want to be in a more intimate setting. Whether if you can't meet with them or ask them to meet pick up the phone and call them and speak with them. Don't just send it over email. And that's, again, just out of respect. And that's also something that the donors have shared with me.
And the other thing I'd add, Brian, is that there's a couple times throughout the year when the programs in your chapter or the events kind of align with an opportunity where you could invite them and then perhaps make an ask following the event. So, of course, kickoff to the year, January event can be a big celebration. And then May 1st is the feast of our patron, St. Joseph the Worker. So chapters typically host an event either on that day or if it falls on an odd day of the week at the closest event to May 1st. That could be a great opportunity to have a little something extra at your events and to invite donors, kind of like the open house or show and tell type event. The other one is your August chapter's executive speaker series, since that's the month across all of YCP when we celebrate YCP's birthday. Mm-hmm. So this coming August, YCP will be 9 years old. So that's a great opportunity to invite a lot of people out, again, have that show and tell type event. So those are just a couple instances when you could perhaps engage with donors more. The last one would be, of course, like a Christmas party, December executive speaker series. So you can also use those as tools so that you don't even have to necessarily host additional events, because we know how much you guys are already offering through all of your service to YCP. So that would kind of help hit two birds with one stone by utilizing those events that already exist. So thanks so much, Ryan. Ryan's from our San Diego chapter, by the way. I should have been sharing chapter names here all along. So that's all the questions I see in the comments here. I want to make sure we didn't miss anyone. So you're welcome to unmute and ask any questions or put any final questions here in the chat box. And while maybe you're thinking about that, I wanted to mention one last thing. Many times we find there's a little bit of confusion with understanding how the funding model is really set up for a YCP chapter. And so we spent a lot of time on this early in YCP's years with our national board, with other consultants and experienced executives, really talking to them about how to structure the chapter so that it can stay financially stable. So the way that a chapter budget is really organized and structured is that typically, if you have a healthy number of board members, which would be perhaps 7 to 9 board members, the board dues from them should really cover the majority of your budget each year. And any additional kind of space in the needs of your chapter and the current income or revenue streams could be fulfilled by, of course, the portion of membership dues per each active member in your chapter that comes back to you through the national office. And then any small amount of in-kind donors or sponsorships that you solicit. So really, we imagine, board member dues are a great way if you can assist your board in helping recruit board members to really have a majority of that budget covered. And then you're just working on kind of engaging with donors and engaging with supporters in your community to kind of make up that final piece of the pie. At the same time, I recognize and understand that it's challenging to recruit board members. I understand that some of you on this call have fairly small boards. That's something that we're aware of and really working on better ways to help you all to recruit and build your boards so that you can have that healthy budget. But sometimes that's new information for people about how it was kind of originally structured. So I thought that might be helpful just as we wrap up here. So with that, it looks like our questions are pretty much coming to a close here. So we're extremely grateful for you all joining us. And we do have a couple of quick updates for you just on a couple things that are going on at the national level. So first, our next session of our winter series, we're going to be hosting Mike Stefanski, who has had a significant amount of leadership and work experience in the telecommunications industry, formerly from Verizon. So that'll be the second week of January. So pin that to your calendars. Make sure and invite your teammates. We'll be confirming the details, but it'll be 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., similar style to this. Mike will be dialing in from the East Coast, so that's going to be really exciting. We are going to be hosting the recordings for all of this 5 months, 5 topic series. It's going to be at that link there, ycpconference.org/leadership. That'll go live probably by end of day tomorrow with the most recent recording from tonight. So perhaps you could take that recording, send it to a couple of your teammates. Let's say your director of outreach wasn't on the call tonight and you think this would be valuable for your team. Recommend that they watch it, that they take some time to hear what Pam has shared and what we've been able to talk about here this evening. Also, for those of you who have heard from our leadership conference or the emails we've sent, we are in the rollout stage of a new technology that will replace our Nation Builder technology. So Nation Builder is our database, it's our email system, donor management. And so we are expecting to roll that out completely by the beginning of Q2. So you can see we've got the phases there at the top. We've finished the discovery phase. We've been doing a ton of training on our end and getting things set up and organized. We're also in the design and build stage now, which is really helping us to design a new website, build out all the back end of this new program, and also to prepare training that's going to be helpful for your team to have, because we're going to help train you guys to bring you up to speed on everything you need to know about this new software. Our role is to make this as easy as possible and provide as little burden as possible on you guys. So in Q1, you can expect to do some training. We're building that out in how we'll be able to deliver that to you in bite-sized chunks so that it's easy. We're imagining it could be just a couple of hours of additional training to get up to speed on that program. Really depends on your role as well. Some roles will need to do a little extra training, like the director of membership, the director of technology, and some people will just get the baseline kind of foundational training. So the anticipation of launch is there at the end of March, very beginning of April. In line with this, we're going to be rolling out a brand new website as well. So that'll be the national website, and then embedded within that, your chapter websites. So we're really excited about that. You can continue to look for updates from us. Also, if you go to that leadership, the ycpconference.org/leadership, you'll see a tab up there for your membership. That's also a site we've dedicated to sharing updates with you. So don't be afraid to use that as well. 2 more quick updates. These will be fast. We do have our conference coming up again. So thank you for you guys that our Cleveland team. Megan, you guys were amazing. Shout out to you and the Cleveland team for all your support helping put on last year's conference. We're going to be here back in Dallas, Texas in 2019. Now, for those of you that couldn't attend, we have a member conference. And then the Friday leading up to it, we have a leadership conference, which is just for you guys, our leaders, our board members, and our chaplains, the volunteers that are really doing the day-to-day efforts in your cities. So we are this year going to have more emphasis on a board member track during the leadership conference and throughout the weekend. So if you're a board member on the call, we really hope that you'll come out and join us. We think it's going to be fun and valuable for you. If you're a leader, invite your board members. Start planning with your team on how you can come out for that weekend. Plan to be there all day on the 13th to be here for the leadership conference. We'll have an awesome gala Saturday night. And you guys are going to be receiving a package from us in the new year in January. It's going to have marketing materials for the conference, as well as marketing materials for the pilgrimage, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second. Keep in mind, though, that you guys will have marketing materials at your disposal. We're going to ship you the flyers you need, the business cards, the ads, everything that you'll need to get started for marketing the conference. But share with people how transformational this weekend can really be. We just had extraordinary feedback from this most recent conference and the year before. We had about 350 this year. Next year, we're anticipating 450 plus. And Megan asked about the hotel. Yes, Megan, I believe we either just uploaded to the ycpconference.org website the hotel info, or it will be within the next week or so. So that is all wrapping up right now. And we do have a hotel. The great part is the hotel will actually be on the same campus. It's like a hotel conference center, just right here in Dallas. So it'll all be in one place this year, which is going to be really nice. Yeah, we're excited about that as well. Last thing, guys, thanks for hanging with us here. We are hosting a pilgrimage in 2020. You can see the dates down there in February. What's cool about this is the pilgrimage actually ends on Ash Wednesday. So it's an amazing way to start.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's an amazing way to start your Lenten season. So the only way this pilgrimage is going to be successful in bringing our YCP members together from all over the country is if you guys can help us to promote this. Maybe you've been to Rome, maybe you've had a friend that has gone to Rome, or maybe you're just excited yourself to go on this pilgrimage. The package you'll get in January that your chapter will receive from us will have marketing materials similar to this for the pilgrimage. So you guys can start spreading the word. You'll be receiving some communication as well from someone at Corporate Travel Services. The guy's name is Nate Weinman, and he is organizing the whole pilgrimage. So they're the company that we've contracted with to host this pilgrimage. So he's happy to have Skype calls with you guys, answer your questions about the pilgrimage, and help really prepare you to market that and share that with your member base. So you'll get marketing materials for the conference and for the pilgrimage from us here in the new year. As well, we'll be sharing the marketing toolkit for you guys, the digital files, the media files, everything that you need for the conference, so that you'll have everything online in one place. So lots coming on that line, on that front. The deadline, Megan, we're still finalizing the deadline for the conference, so we'll be communicating that. It may actually already be on our website, if I remember correctly. And then for the pilgrimage, right now, $100 holds your place for the pilgrimage. That's it. And the deposit's fully refundable through, I think, mid-February of 2019. So you guys should have received an email about the pilgrimage as well. Yeah,
Question.
cap for, not for the pilgrimage right now. And, it's basically, we're going to keep it open as long as we can for the pilgrimage. For the conference, we're hoping for 450 plus, but there is some wiggle room there. So we're really hoping to have as many people there as possible.